Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of In Lay Terms. I am your host, Peyman Askari. I am joined by Mr. Nico Lagan. Nico, how are you?
Mister, I like that. Good.
I,
You?
I could go with Mrs. That's going to be the
Ha!
topic of conversation.
Whatever, man. That's fine. That's fine. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. It's fine.
Uh, um, Nico, so you and I, we did a panel live stream on the Philosopher Stoic teddy bear, and that was the first time I met you, and I really liked the message you were trying to put out, which is it's kind of like a counterculture message trying to go back to what Canada used to be, its Christian roots.
Yeah.
And
It's pretty.
and I,
It's pretty sad that it's counterculture. It's counterculture. That's really,
yeah,
really sad.
yeah, and I don't want to monopolize the time, but I've talked to hundreds of Canadians, and each of them gives me like a glimpse into the past, what Canada used to be when the churches ran the universities, when you had priests in the education system, and then now we're living in this upside down world. So I don't know. Take it anywhere you want. What do you think is happening? What do you want to see happening?
What do I think's happening? It's the great replacement theory. Like this is you have to be blind to not see it happen. It's been happening in the UK. It's been happening all over Europe, and it's really since 2020, 2021. Before that, it was not the case. Like we had immigrations that actually somewhat made sense, somewhat, because since 2015, the liberal government's been playing with that. But there's the great replacement theory that wants to pop the population of Canada to 100 million people by the end of this century. So over the next 74 years, they want to bring it from 41 million to 100 million people. And this is not even a conspiracy theory. The I'm just Googling the name of the guy. I can't remember it by heart, but there's a guy that's very good friends with Mark Carney that runs a group in Canada. I'm just trying to remember what the name is, and main that's their main point of conversation is to bring in 100 million people by the next 74 years. And then we wonder why the country that we love doesn't look the same as it did. Because this is only possible through wokeness. For some reason that is so illogical, the woke mobs are associating with immigrants hating on the culture that founded this country, which is Christian values. It's absolutely insane when you think about it. The only reason those woke people are able to say and do what they do today is because they live under a Christian society, because we're the only one that accepts this. Go to a Muslim country and try to preach Jesus, see what happens to you. And Jesus, as in the Bible, see what happens to you. Go to a Muslim country and start saying that women can be men and men can be women, that everything's interchangeable. You're gonna have to learn to fly very, very fast because you're gonna see the ground coming up. But only in the Western world are we that accepting, and this is part of the problem. We see a massive issue with our culture change. Like, this is an anecdote, this is a personal thing that happened to me, so this is not based on facts, this is based on what I've personally seen. But I challenge the people out there to tell me, to prove me wrong. During COVID, I didn't get vaccinated and I moved to the woods. Like, I had an investment property in the middle of nowhere that I was renting on Airbnb. I lived in Montreal, lived in the city, but then my job became remote. So I said, screw this. I'm not staying in the city. I'm going to live by myself in the woods. Eventually, my girlfriend, now my wife, joined me about a year and a half after that. And then I lost my career over not taking the vaccines. We ended up traveling the US for almost 3 years straight. So for almost 5 years, I did not really know what Canada was, because I was away from it for almost 2.5 years, and then we traveled for 2.5 years, give or take. Then I remember Jason Levine came to visit me in Montreal. We were going to record at a studio in Montreal. We went to the Walmart right next to the studio, literally walking distance from the studio. And we're both looking at each other. We're just looking around. There's literally, it looked like you were in a country in the Middle East. Most women that we saw, if not all women we saw, were wearing the burqa. And it's right here in Montreal. This is not a foreign country. And that was not the case 5 years ago. Literally, the culture is changing to a place that is not Canadian. And unlike Mark Carney, Muslim values are not Canadian values. But we keep on letting it happen. And it's our own fault. We are causing this. What's going on right now. And I'm kind of fired up by this because I literally just posted a video about this right now. How Mark Miller, did you see Mark Miller's reaction? There's a deranged individual in Montreal that peed on a mosque. Mark Miller reposted it all outraged. I'm like, bro, there's more than 100 church that's been vandalized or burned completely to the ground since the false announcement Trudeau made about the grave sites that they found in Kamloops, which was never proven. It's all
right, let me jump in. Let me jump in here. There's a lot in there. The Great Replacement, I agree with you. From 2014, I would be 6 months in Canada, 6 months abroad working. I come back, the demographics kept changing, and that's like going back to 2014. I always tell this story. I was born in Iran in 83. I came to Canada in 89. Because the Muslims destroyed our country, we were never religious. We were just spiritual. And I came here. We had a traditional family. And I noticed even back then, these people weren't really Christian. Like the people, they back then in 89, they had gotten rid of their Christian principles. Honor thy mother, honor thy father, don't lie. People were swearing at their mothers. The divorce rates were really high. And like I'm trying to understand when Canada went wrong is what I'm saying. Right now, things are just out of control. They've gone into another orbit. But even back in the 80s, the 70s, something happened in Canada where people just stopped believing in religion, in Christianity, and they started believing in something else like science.
That's always what happens to Marxist countries. If you look at Marxist countries, they're always on the path of communism. But how does it start? There's normally 3 steps that you can see repeated time and time again throughout history. First, they replace God by government. They dissociate people from God because you can't control God. You can't fight it directly. So what do? You make it less than the government. It's always the number 1 step, and that happened around the 70s, at least in Quebec, which was the most religious province in Canada, arguably. There was a dissociation from the church and the state. So people started being like my parents. They weren't religious at all. I could count on one hand the number of times I had been to church until about 5 years ago. So this was not something that was taught. It's not something that's here in Quebec anymore, but there's been a dissociation from state and church that started around the 70s. And then you start to lose the identity that actually built this country, and then you think anything goes. It all evolves. So think about it. Marxism, number 1 thing they do, remove God, replace it by them, by government. Then what's the next thing they do? They pluck the man out of the family unit. They remove masculinity from the family, and then they replace the man by government. You don't need to be married. You don't need to have a man in your life. If you can't make it, we'll give you some money. The government will subsidize your lifestyle. And then what's the third thing that happens? Men are women. Men are confused. Men are weak, and they don't know what a man is. Are you surprised that we see men becoming women, women becoming men? You hear it from the trans group all the time. Oh yeah, trans have always been around. Yeah, it's true. Trans have always been around at the point where society is about to collapse because people don't know what a man is anymore, or they're so weak that they don't understand what a man is and what a woman is. This is not a good thing. When you have people with psychological issues, with mental issues, like what we saw in Tumbler Ridge, for example, we're not talking about somebody that was mentally sane here. We're talking about a dude that started identifying as a woman when he was 12. We have a massive, massive problem here, and they're kind of praising it like, oh, It's always been there. Yeah. No. You know what? Yes, it's been there, but it's always a sign of collapse. What do you think happened in Rome before they gave the keys to other people to fight for them because nobody wanted to defend the country? Didn't take too long for the outsiders to realize, ooh, those people are weak. How about we take over from here? What do you think the next step is? What do you think we're seeing right now? The same people that can't tell me what a man is or what a woman is are saying that we need to be sensitive, we need to be inclusive to other religions, that their religious system is not religion. It's a governmental system. It's a way, it's laws that they put in place in order to conquer other countries. But those are the steps that you've seen throughout history. Replace God by government, remove the men from the family unit, and then look at the collapse. Men become women and women become men. That's exactly what we're seeing right now.
So you mentioned Mark Miller. I have a theory. He's got a hard on for Christianity. He said, some verses in the Bible should be
Yep.
banned,
Or
essentially.
they're hateful. They're hateful.
Yeah, they're hateful. I think the reason that they're doing this is because the Bible encourages like a traditional family, a man and a woman, a strong male figure, and it basically leads to the family unit at the expense of the state. But and you can disagree with me here, but I've seen Canada, the men get more and more feminized. It came in with the feminist movement, and then with homosexuality and the normalization of that.
You just muted yourself, man.
I don't know why that happened. Did you get that last part? It extends into transgenderism.
No. I just got until homosexuality.
No, I'm just saying, like, men are becoming feminized. Feminism, homosexuality, transgenderism, and you have this feminine society of weak men, and it's impossible to stand up for anything.
It's not an accident. Look at the rates right now. They say that about 50% of people end up being married. 50% of marriages end up in divorce. 90% of the cases, the woman gets the children. So that means you have a whole society, you have whole generations of men being raised by women without their father in the household. Okay, sure, they see them on the weekends, they see them every now and then, but they're not the ones that are the primary caregiver. And this is not because men can't do it. That's because we have a family law system in Canada. Like, our family law system is broken and will always favor the woman over the man. Yet, if you look at statistics, men do a way better job at raising kids by themselves than women do, because we're the first one to admit that we don't know everything and that we need a woman to help us. So we might not find we're not necessarily talking about a woman as in a mother, but somebody with a feminine trait, somebody that is a woman that can help us as an outsider, not necessarily as a mother replacement. Could be an aunt, could be a cousin, whatever the case may be, just to show that little girl, for example, what it is to be a woman. Same thing is correct for men. Boys need to have men around them in order to be taught what it is to be a man. And this is not a fallacy. This is just facts. This is the way that it is. You bring something different to your children than your wife does, than their mothers do. And that's normal. That's by design. But all of those things are being plucked away and replaced by the theory that men and women are the same. That there's no difference. Everything a man can do, a woman can do, and vice versa. Guess what? No, incorrect. That is absolutely wrong. You don't even need to look that deep. Just look physically. Do you think that it's a coincidence that 95% of the most dangerous jobs are done by men? Like, take all the most dangerous jobs in the world, more than 95% of them are done by men. Why? Because they're bigger, we're stronger, we're faster, we're more resilient physically when it comes to working. We will sacrifice our body in order to make more money. I don't see women out there complaining that there's not enough female bricklayers out there. I don't see women complaining that there's not enough women working on oil rigs. I don't hear those comments, yet they will complain that there's not enough women engineers. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you start looking at what's happening in society, and we are allowing people to dictate our policies that that can't even tell us what a man is. Ask those same feminists today, what's a man? What's a woman? It's all about feelings. And this is what happens when you look at the theory. We've all heard it, like strong men create good times create weak men create weak men create hard times, and hard times create good men. And this is what we're seeing right now, or hard men. This is what we're seeing as we speak right now. We're at the tailgate, we're at the tail end of the good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. That's where we are right now, because men are not men anymore. And it's everywhere you look, but we're accepting, it's hard to keep it on one single topics because they're all connected to each other, and it all started when we disconnected from God. Yes. Funny enough, everything I'm describing right now all started when we allowed the disconnection from God and we replaced God by government. This is all when this really started to happen.
No, I agree with you. I've been thinking a lot on the same topic of God. I've been thinking a lot about the concept of conservatism. It's almost become trendy now that everyone says, reflexively, I'm not a conservative, as if it's a bad thing. I think conservatism, it's more and more, it seems like it's this policy of attacking other ideas that you don't disagree with to hold on to conserve your way of life. For example, there's nothing technically wrong with having 4 wives, but that's not how we do it here, so we just attack it. In contrast to progressivism, where it's just like all bets are off, there's no goal in mind, we're going to move forward and change everything.
We don't even know what conservatives are anymore. We have a party that is called the Conservative Party that has no conservative values. And then we have Canadians that are voting for a party that are liberals, just a smaller, lighter liberal version, and they consider that conservatism. How many times have I asked people what it is to be conservative? Explain to me values from a conservative. What conservative values should I have? One of the number one thing is be pro-life. Pro-life instead of pro-abortion. This is not even a conversation we can have in Canada. The murder of unborn children is encouraged by our Conservative Party. Pierre Poilievre, during his last campaign, made it clear that he would never go after abortion. And he calls himself a conservative. So we don't even prone trying to save the most vulnerable individuals in our society. Instead, we encourage people to murder them. And they have the audacity to call themselves conservatives. Like, this is the number one thing right there, abortion. If you are pro-life, you could be considered conservative. If you're pro-abortion, you're not. 100%. This is a line in the sand that you cannot cross. If you want to be a conservative, you believe in preserving life. Plain and simple. But those same people are going to tell us that if we find cells on Mars, this is life. But if we find cells in a female body, those are just a clump of cells. They're not living until they're self-sustainable. Like, are you kidding me? But those are very simple things that we can look at, and the fact that we can't even approach them is very problematic. This is a conversation that none of the politicians have the balls to talk about because they're going to be ostracized from the get-go. But this just shows how raw, how I don't know what the proper term is. I'm trying to be polite here, but that just shows how destroyed our society has become when the life of our children is not even important to us anymore. Do you know that the studies are showing right now that about a third of Gen X or Gen Zers are missing because of abortion?
Yeah.
A third. Somebody told me that about 3 years ago. One of the biggest proponent of one of the guy that is the most against abortion in the US. I just cannot remember what his name is, but I had the pleasure to interview him. He has a massive following. And he told me that 2 or 3 years ago, and I was like, what? I had never heard that before. Now it's
like
becoming
a genocide.
It's not like a genocide. It is a genocide. A third. Can you imagine? You start going in the street and start shooting a third of the people you look. Here's the perfect example. That's funny. I never thought about that until now. Everybody loves the Avengers, right? You know, at the end, Thanos kills half the population. Everybody's outraged. Hey, we've been killing a third of it right here. No clicking. It was not a one-time thing. Everybody's doing it. So what's the difference? You're outraged by what you see on TV, but you don't have the balls to look at yourself in the mirror and say, we have killed and murdered a third of the Gen Z generation. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, the absurdities. They feed into their other policies. You kill the next generation, and then you say there's a labor shortage, so you have to bring in immigrants. So the cycle continues. But what really interests me is the weaponization of empathy. Like, I go into these liberal circles, these urban centers. I get invited to these dinner parties, and I have to go. And anything that I say, if it could potentially hurt someone's feelings, I must be in the wrong. So like, we have too much immigration that might hurt an immigrant's feeling. I must be wrong. Transgenderism, it's not a policy that we want to pursue on a national level. It might hurt someone's feelings in school. Peyman, you're wrong. Get out.
It is unfortunately what happens when a population is weak. If everything you do is based on emotions and not on facts, this is exactly what's going to happen. What you're seeing right now makes sense. If you understand that policies and decisions are no longer made on facts, they're made on how you feel about the reality. Tumbler Ridge being the perfect example. I've been talking almost only about that over the past 3 days. Ever since it happened, I've been talking about this, posting about it multiple times a day. And I get the comments, you shouldn't be politicizing this. I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't politicize this at all. You guys did. You guys have made everything about politics. What I'm telling you has nothing to do with politics. It's not a left versus right issue. What I'm saying is we don't have a gun problem in Canada. We have a mental health issue. This is the problem that we have in Canada. This is not this is not about politics. This is about facts. We have a mental health issue. Imagine how deranged you have to be to go into to not only murder your mother, murder your stepbrother, then go to a school and start shooting people. That tells you the state of mind. Do you think it's a coincidence that he was trans on SSRIs on top of that? Of course not. This is a trend that we start seeing happening in the US. But yet, if I have the audacity to identify, to just point out the trend, to just show that there's something really, really wrong going on, just look at our youth. Our youth believe that they can change sex based on their essence, on how they feel that day. This is deranged. It's absolutely deranged, but we have a system, our medical system, that is reinforcing those beliefs. We're not allowed to question it anymore. This is what psychology has become. We need to reinforce their beliefs. Imagine going to an anorexic individual and telling them, hey, you know what? You're pretty fat. I agree with you. You're actually, as a psychologist, you know what? Yeah, that's true. You're actually pretty fat. You should lose more weight. You can't do that when it comes to anorexia. You can't go to a bulimic and say, oh yeah, what do you mean? You only throw up once after every meal? You're a slacker. You should do it twice. But that's what we're doing with those people. Oh, you don't feel well in your body. Oh yeah, let's cut your genitals off. See how that makes you feel. Is that better? You feel better afterwards? It's absolutely insane. It blows my mind that, you know how I feel most of the times, and that's messed up. I never thought that would happen. But in movies, there's always a guy, a bum on the side of the street that's all dirty, has a raggedy beard. He's literally almost naked with a sign just like, the apocalypse is coming. This is how I feel. This is how I feel all the time. Because you start talking about, you look at all the aspects that we're seeing, and we're not talking about root problems right now. We're just talking about the side effects. What we're seeing are the side effects. But the root problem is that we have no value. We do not value God anymore. We have no connection to our maker anymore. And look throughout history, what happens when there's the disconnection between you and God? You believe that you are God. Tell me how good that's going to go. But we won't even address that. We're fighting over the side effects of the real problem that is a lack of God in our life. But that can't even be addressed anymore. Even our conservatives don't have the balls to say that God exists. Have you heard a
No.
guy like Peyman start talking about how important religion is? No. He'll wear all the masks and all the hats from other religions, but he'll never say how this country was founded on Christian values. And you know what? If you don't like Christian values, it's okay. You're just not welcomed here. It's okay. We should go back to a time where we were more like Poland. You know what? Oh, you don't agree with Christian values? Bye-bye. We don't want you here. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. Some cultures don't work with other cultures. And you have the right to defend your culture. That is not racist. That is not Islamophobe. It's not xenophobe. It's nothing. It's I want to protect my culture. So I keep the people that don't like my culture, that are trying to replace it by their culture, away. What's wrong with that? What is absolutely wrong with that? Nothing. Love what Poland is doing. Absolutely love it. We should look to Poland.
You know, like you mentioned that we're moving away from God. We're abandoning God. I'm almost like God and conservatism. They're almost synonymous. It's a
Of course.
means of perpetuating a framework of social governance, like culture that works. That's not unhinged. And now that it's become unhinged, let's go to the Conservative Party. They just reaffirmed Bill C-4.
Oh, Jesus.
You have parents that have abdicated their parental responsibility. I talk to these parents and they say, what's wrong with a kid choosing their gender? I'm like, well, you're a father. You should know that. And these are the people that supported Bill C-4, which is undermining parental rights. It's not undermining their parental rights because they've abdicated the responsibility. They're undermining the parental rights of people like you.
Yes, 100%. And that's insane. Again, insanity that the Conservative Party's in favor. They voted for Bill C-4. They were okay with Bill C-4. That's one thing that they don't like to talk about, that conservative people don't like to talk about, but that is a fact. But again, that is just a side effect of our lack of God. And you're absolutely right. In my head, if you're a conservative, you believe in God. 100%. This is one thing that is about what is more conservative than to believe in God, to believe that there's a higher power. It's like the number one thing. The number one thing to me is, do you believe in God? Yes or no? If no, you're not a conservative. It's really, really that simple. That's like the number one thing. But they also believe in small government. They also believe in that they will value life over murder. They also believe that responsibility. This is supposed to be one of the number one, if not after God. It's normally, well, can you really be a Christian and not believe in responsibility? I don't think you can. I don't think it's possible. But that is also one of the traits that a conservative is supposed to have, is to agree on the personal responsibility, on the personal responsibility of the individual to be better. That is supposed to be one of the bedrocks of a conservative movement, and yet where do we see that?
I'll just add, you mentioned a conservative has to believe in God. A progressive, we call them liberals now, they believe in God too, but their God is government and their religion is bureaucracy.
Their God is government, their God's money, their God is whatever they want it to be. God is small g God, could be anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just not big G God. That's the difference. But in order to believe in God, you need to believe in self-responsibility. Because you are to blame. Like, this is one of the things that I don't talk about this very often, actually. I don't know that I've ever really talked about this in detail, but I used to be a Buddhist. For the longest time, I was a vegetarian. I was a vegan. Like, for 12 years, 13 years, I did not eat meat. I was a Buddhist. But Buddhism brought me to Christianity. Because Buddhism is all about me. It's about me doing better for others. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to attain enlightenment. That's what I want, is to become enlightened. Not to enlighten the whole world, just enlighten myself. And then you start reading the Bible, you start to understand that there's a guy that showed up a couple thousand years ago and decided and allowed himself to be crucified for your sins. Not for his sins, for your sins. Basically, that means that you're flawed. That means that as an individual, you will make mistake. That is a fact. If there's two things that are real in this life, I will mess up again, and one day I'm gonna die. Those are the two guarantees in life. I will make mistakes, and I'm gonna die. So imagine coming from that perspective. I don't care that you don't believe that God became man, crucified himself, or allowed to be crucified for your sins. I don't even care that you believe in that part or not, but tell me how much better a society would be if you admitted that you're flawed from the get-go. That the first thing you admit is that I'm flawed, I'm going to make mistakes, but I would like to be better. Imagine if that was the train of thoughts of every single Canadian. That's the number one thing that we could all agree on. We're going to make mistakes, but I'm going to try not to repeat them, and I'm going to try to be better every single day, and I will treat my enemy, I will treat my neighbor the same way as I would treat myself or my family. How simple, how beautiful of a society would we live in if those simple principles would be applied by every people that are part of that society?
But you're describing a high trust society, whereas right now there's no moral foundation. So you almost have these infantilized citizens that need a police force to keep them in line.
But the only reason that we are in the situation that we are in right now is because we were a high trust society and we decided to trust people that do not like our society. This is what I was talking about earlier, the woke. If you look at the Marxists out there, this is exactly what they take advantage of, is to convince you that a religion that is based on a political system of invasion is good for you. They are Canadians just as you and I are. And it's insane. Have you not looked at Iran? Have you not looked in Lebanon? Like those are two events that haven't happened that long. You can come in Montreal. There's a lot of people that came from Lebanon. There's a lot of Lebanese here that immigrated here in the 90s. At the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, when they saw it coming, you're like, ugh! Same thing that happened to Iran's going to happen here. What's happening in Iran right now? Last time I checked, it was something like 90,000 people have been killed by their governments. Like, this is insane. If those numbers are real, because we don't know if they're real or not, there's not that much information that's coming out of it, coming out of Iran, but I've seen those numbers, 30 to 90,000 people, if not more, have been shot, literally in the street by their government. Do you think that those are values that we align with? Like, let's be honest here, because they're losing control of their country. They're allowed to do that in the name of God. This is the most insane part that you'll ever hear. Yet, look at a system like Christianity. Look at Christianity as a whole. You don't need to believe in the religion of Christianity, because I don't. I'll be honest with you, man. I don't go to church the way other Christians do, because I'm not able to find a pastor that actually has balls to speak about what really needs to be spoken about. And I'm not going to go to church just to have a little feel-good moment with somebody that's not courageous. But those are the things that we need to admit, because most people believe in somewhat of a God. Most people do. Whatever your definition of God is might change, but most of us believe in God. The people that do believe in God, we have to agree that certain religions, certain systems do not work with others. This is a conversation we need to start having here. Because what we're seeing right now is literally the last steps of the last step of destruction of our society are happening as we speak right now. We get to be front and center and see it happen. But without addressing those hard questions, it's only going to get worse. And I don't see it. I don't see people having the balls to speak about what we're talking about right now, especially not on a government level. Never going to happen.
You know, it's I treat Canada like a crime scene. A lot of people
Yep.
have used that expression, and I'm just trying to understand, you know, who done it. How did this happen? So when we say, you know, we're talking about Christianity, when people turned on Christianity, moved away from God, uh, they there's nothing to defend anymore. And I think they went from biblical teachings, whatever religion, to logic and logic and science. And when you have logic and science governing how you should behave, you can just go in any direction. Well, this guy's DNA in the Middle East is 99.9% like mine. He loves his children, so let's open the gates. Like people don't really have anything that they're defending anymore.
You're absolutely right. Ask the average Canadian what it is to be Canadian. Most of the people right now, at least half of the population, are going to pretty much tell you that being Canadian is not being American. So what is there to defend? And you're absolutely right. The frustration that I hear every day, not just from me, I'm very frustrated by that. But there's a lot of Canadians that are very frustrated by this, and they don't know what to do. They really do not know what we're supposed to do about this. And my message to them is always the same. It's very unfortunate, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. But one of my buddies in Alabama, because my wife and I have spent a lot of our time in Alabama, like normally we're there for the winter. One of my buddies, it's one of those days, he's a very Christian individual. We met in church, and one day we were at his place. I think I was sitting outside smoking a cigar with him, and it was one of those days. We all have them, and I was kind of down, just not in the greatest of mood. And he looked at me and he said one of the most brilliant things anybody's ever told me. He looked at me, he's like, Nico, you know that your job is not to prevent the ship from sinking, because the ship is already sinking. Your job's to put as many people on lifeboats as you can so that they find God. And ever since, every day that I don't feel well, every day that I'm not in the mood to do what I do, I keep on thinking about what he told me. My job's not to prevent the ship from sinking, because it's sinking already. It's already sinking. My job is to put as many people on lifeboats as possible. That's what my job is. But I encourage the people out there that feel the way I do, that are frustrated by the way that things are going, that probably realize just like I do that things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. That at the end of the day, our job is not to prevent it from happening, because I don't think that we can. I don't think that we can at all. It's part of the cycle. No matter if you believe in the Bible or not, if you believe in history, just look at history. It always happens. Man is always going to be very self-destructive, and there's always a cycle where the society collapses. It gets really rough, but then tough men are born and they bring it back. Now, if you go to the Bible, that's even worse, because it's going to need to get a lot worse before Jesus Christ shows up again. So no matter how you look at it, it's going to get worse. No questions about it, it's going to get worse. But you can find comfort in our job. Like, we're probably not the ones that are going to be rebuilding this place, but our sons are. Like, there's one thing, I have a 7-month-old, and that's one thing I think about all the time. What am I going to have to teach him so that he understands that his job's going to be to rebuild this? Not me. I'll probably be dead by then. But his job is going to be tough. Like, he's going to live in a very rough time. Like, if you have children right now that are under the age of 5 or 10, they're going to experience a Canada that we've never seen before. And it's going to be rough. It is not going to be pretty. If you look at what's coming on, if you look at what's going on right now, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But that is not necessarily a bad thing, because you will raise really tough individuals that will do something better with this country. Unfortunately, it's part of the cycle.
Yeah, it's a bad time to be born right now.
No, it's a great time to be born if you're born with parents that understand what's going on. If your parents are not understanding of what's going on, it's gonna suck. Yep, 100%.
I kind of want to go to the comments to see if there's anyone who's got any
Go
questions
for
for
it.
you. It's Prairie. Oh my gosh, two of my favorite YouTube truth
Yeah.
tellers. Uh, I built the city. Look at the discipline. Kids swear society. Society collapses when you put the right not to be offended over the truth. Do you want to comment
Oh
on
yeah.
that?
I wish I had a bell just ding 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 ding. Winner winner chicken dinner. That's 100% when feelings matter more than facts. It's always you're always gonna lose. At the end of the day, you're always going to lose.
Another one from Prairie. Transvestites, yes, that's one thing, a guy wearing women's clothes. But transgender is something different. I don't know. Do you want to comment?
Well, one can argue that one leads to the other. That once you start encouraging or letting men dress as women, what's the next step? It's a slippery slope, right? I understand your point that transvestite are not they don't think they're women. They fully understand that they're men dressing at women as women. But is that a slippery slope towards, oh, I can be whatever I want today? This is the argument, right? Like even at actors, like I'm a big movie buff. I absolutely love movies. Always have, always will. Just a fan of movies. And I see masculine men playing women parts, and I'm like, bro, what'd you sell? You sell your soul? Is that your cost? Is that your big humiliation? You know, there's a humiliation stage in most very known people. I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about, but before you make it big, you always are humiliated. They will publicly humiliate you. That is an evil ritual that is all over history. It always happens. Now it's just more common because you see it right there on your phone, on TV. But if you look, when men are starting to act, they have one role where they are in women's clothes. Oh, they make it big afterwards. It's not a coincidence. It's never a coincidence. But that is a slippery slope, Prairie. I don't know. It's where do you draw the line is the big question. That's a question I ask myself all the time. Where do we draw the line? Where do we start? Because one of the things we need to keep thinking about is where do we start? Where is the last line of defense? Is it your home? You don't want people to push those ideologies to your home. Is it your town? Is it a city? Is it your country? Is it your province? Where is it? Because we've lost that perspective. You look at Poland. Poland made it a country thing. They're like, yep, no more. No, we're a Christian country here. You don't believe in those ideologies? You don't believe in what we believe in? No problem. There's at least 60, 70 other countries that will take you. That will let you live your life or actually agree with your values. But where do we draw the line? And that goes back to our question. Transvestite are okay, but trans are something completely different. Is it? Where's the line? I don't know. I don't claim to know where that line is. But where's the line?
Let me jump in. You've mentioned Poland a couple of times. Yes, they've drawn the line, but I think what they're saying is this is what it means to be Polish. This is where we're going. A traditional family,
Yep.
husband and wife, raise children, and everything else is out, including transgenderism. Andrew Tate, whatever you think of him, he said something. He goes, the reason that homosexuality is criminalized in the Middle East is not because there are no gay people. They're everywhere. They wanted to keep it out of the schools. In Canada, we've decriminalized drugs. And I didn't expect this to happen. I guess I didn't have the vision. It's creeping into the school systems. So if you don't push back on something either by force through the government or by ridicule through religion, society, it's going to flourish. And like you said, you got to draw the line somewhere.
We're sinful. That always goes back to what the number one thing the Bible teaches you is that we're sinful and we cannot save ourselves. So God became man to save us. That's basically, there you go. That's the Bible explained in one sentence. You're not perfect. You're going to mess up. You can't do it alone. Believe in the man, believe in the God that saved your soul. There you go. That's all it is. Well, I don't think so. I'm not that smart, man. There's a lot of people that have been saying this for a very long time. So
we got a comment from Sheridan Forbes. Previous generations in government have decided to sacrifice the prosperity of young Canadians and our national currency for high home prices and government spending. What are your thoughts?
He's absolutely right. Why do you think the boomers are still voting liberals? Because they have taken advantage. When I say taken advantage, I'm not saying that it was conscious. I'm just saying they had the advantage of being born after the Second World War. Greatest time to be alive in Canada, if you ask me. No technology to destroy your society, but all the new industries that were developed, all the boom, the tech boom that happened during the Second World War and after, they got to live in that time where you could have one single parent working at a very regular job, nothing fancy, and be able to afford a house, a few kids, a couple of cars on one single salary. And that salary wasn't $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year here. Just a regular everyday job building cars in a factory. Like, they had it best. And I don't know if it's, because that is again a question that I ask myself all the time. Are they conscious of what they're doing? Like the baby boomers that keep on voting for the liberals are, and I'm not saying that voting for the conservatives is any better. All I'm saying is they keep on voting for policies knowing that it's not really impacting them because they're already set. They're already done. They have all the wealth to continue living the way that they're living for a long time until the government start taxing that wealth, and that's just a matter of time. They're going to change their attitude when that happens, but they haven't been hurt by those policies the way you and I and the younger generations are being hurt by them. And that is why they keep on doing what they're doing. But I wonder sometimes if they understand that they're sacrificing their grandchildren's future in order to live their emotions today, to live by the same principle they think Canada lives under now. But the only reason the baby boomers were able to take advantage of Canada the way that they did is because young men went to war and died. This is a fact. Men sacrificed their lives in order to build what we see today. That's a fact. But they don't want that part. They don't want the responsibility part of having to die for it, but they'll take advantage of the beautiful consequences, the reward of such things. And that's why that strong man creates good time is so important to understand. And you know, by those theories, you're looking at somewhere between 80 to 120 years. That's normally throughout history. That's how long the cycle takes. And when's the last time you really had great men? Is the Second World War, ended in 1945. 80 years later, that's 2025. So we're bang in the cycle. 80 to 120 years, we're bang on it. So anytime soon is going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree as well. I just say the baby boomers, they built up the tab, and now the tab's come due, and the youth are screwed.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And the worst part is that there's not really, if you still believe in politics, if you still believe that you can vote your way out of this, which I don't, but let's say that you do. Let's say that you do believe that our election system works the way that it's supposed to work, that one vote actually matters. Which party would you vote for that's going to take us out of this? Like, which party is out there that really wants to bring it back to what it was before?
Do you want me to answer that?
Oh, you can answer. I know what your answer is going to be, but
no. My answer is we need an NDP majority government and a Green official opposition to burn the country down, and then we can rebuild it again.
It's the part that, and I understand what you're saying, but the advantage of having that, it would happen instantaneously. Literally within a year or two, the country would be destroyed and people would be like, what the hell? This is not acceptable. And that's why having the liberals and the conservative giving you the illusion of choice is such a brilliant plan, because they do it extremely slowly. They take their time. They don't destroy the country over 6 months. They're going to do it over years. What we're seeing today did not start under Justin Trudeau. This started under his father in the 70s. Like you ask, we were talking about earlier, the disconnection from God. It all started under him.
Yeah.
The father, the son literally came 30, 40 years later to finish what the father started. And
It's
when I
almost
say his
biblical.
father, I'm talking about the Canadian father, not his biological father that lives in Cuba, but his
Adopted father.
adopted father, adopted father. Yeah, not Castro, but his father Trudeau. Yeah.
There's a lot of questions in here about drugs. Menticide, the systemic effort to undermine and destroy a person's values and beliefs, as by the prolonged interrogation, drugs, torture. What's your view on the impact of drugs on children? Because the level of mental illness on kids, it's gone up dramatically in my lifetime.
When you're talking drugs, you're not just talking about illegal drugs like cocaine here. You're talking about big pharma.
Yeah, yeah.
No, 100%. This is, the drugs that are given to our children through big pharma and our pharmaceutical industry is worse than the drugs I used to use when I was younger. Because I knew, like, it was vilified. What I did was not okay. And you had to somewhat hide what you were doing because society did not condone my actions. Today, we go see a guy in a white coat, in a white lab coat, that instead of asking us, hey, how are you sleeping? What are you eating? Are you eating properly? Are you going outside to enjoy the sun? Do you exercise? Do you take care of yourself? Do you meditate? Oh no, you don't feel good? Oh, okay, no problem. Here's a prescription for this type of drug. Here's an SSRI for you, no problem. And we don't question that. We don't question it at all because that guy is in a white lab coat. We take the drug. It's even worse than the drugs I used to do because, again, I knew it was wrong. We had to hide. This was not, it was vilified. This was not encouraged. But today we're very good at addressing the side effect, the symptoms. Not the symptoms, the side effects, not the root cause. And that's what we're seeing right now. We have a generation that is pumped full of drugs. That's a reality. It's not a coincidence that you see the mental health issues creeping into every single aspect of our lives. One of the analogy that I absolutely love to say is we live in a country where the patients are running the asylum.
Yeah. Yeah. The crazy ones are in charge.
But at the same time, it's the responsibility of the parents. Everything that's happening right now falls under the responsibility of the parents to know better. Because if your child,
you mean the irresponsibility? They've abdicated that responsibility.
100%. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that there needs to be a level of accountability that is put on individuals. We need to go back to a time where we understood that our actions had consequences. And as simple as if I treat my body like a dumpster, guess what? I'm going to feel like one. I'm going to feel like garbage. But that's simple. That's very simple to understand, and most people will agree to that. But they don't want that responsibility anymore, and they will give that responsibility to government. The same government that disconnected us from God, that don't have good intentions from the get-go. People think that, we need to have a change of government. We need to do something. You know what, guys? The system was designed this way. This is not a flaw of the system. George Carlin, one of the most brilliant individual in my opinion that ever lived, said that they're all part of a club that you're not part of. And if voting matters, we wouldn't be allowed to do it. Those are words that were spoken decades ago. They're more true today than they were back then, but this is not a flaw. What we're seeing today is not a flaw. This is the long game. They're playing the long game. This is why it's so hard for people to believe that in a world where we want instant gratification, it's very hard for the individual to understand that game has been going on since, let's say we talk Canada, this game has been going on since Trudeau the father. That's over that's literally decades ago. We're really seeing the effects of it now. But this is how long it's take. That's how long it takes in order to completely destroy a country. It's not something you do overnight. You can't do it overnight. You can't go in the street and start shooting people because the people are going to defend themselves. But if you promote self-harm over decades, what do you think is going to happen? People are going to find it normal to harm themselves. We have a full society that likes to harm themselves and believes that the values that created this beautiful country, that society that we live in, is hateful. This is how backwards we are. Having values, God-given values, is now seen as being hateful.
No, I agree. I was just going to say we're at 55 minutes. How about one more question and then we can wrap it up?
Go for it.
May Bergen says, we have a deluded population influenced by an imposed ideology that defies reality, pushed by a criminal government supporting a globalist agenda. It has infiltrated all our institutions at all levels. Can we even vote our way out of this nightmare? It's basically what you just said.
I don't think you can vote yourself out of it because the voted system was designed this way. This is not a flaw of the system. It is exactly, again, George Carlin said it. If voting mattered, we wouldn't be able to do it. That's a fact. I completely agree with him. I know people are still fighting that left versus right. I didn't vote in the last elections because that's my vote. My vote is not voting. I didn't vote during Trudeau's era either because my vote was not voting. I'm fully aware I will not participate in a system that represents my shackles.
Interesting stuff. Nico, I guess to wrap it up, could you tell people where they could go follow you and watch your podcast?
Yeah, just look for the conspiracy theorist that sits in the corner somewhere. That's pretty much where I am. But yeah, you can find me at Real Nico Lagan everywhere. I'm on every single social media platform, but I would encourage you to go to YouTube. That's definitely the platform I'm developing. I'm spending a lot more time on right now. And I'm also working on something that might be interesting for the people that are here. Is I want to build because I know if you're following what's going on, censorship's coming in Canada. Social media platforms are going to get censored very soon. It's going to be very hard for us to have the same conversations that we just had today, for example. And I want to work on developing a community somewhere where people can go and just continue those conversations, just to be able to have a conversation that is uncensored for the black sheeps out there, for those political orphans that are out there that don't feel represented anymore. And I understand what it is to be the black sheep because I've always been that guy. I've never really, most people don't like me because of the way, and it's okay. I'm not saying that like if my God was hated to a point that he was crucified, I'm okay with that role. I will take the role of being hated if I speak the truth. That's fine. But this is what I'm gonna be strongly working on and promoting, is a place where people can go just to have discussions like the ones we have now, even if it's just through a chat, just so that you at least can find other people that are like you. Because a lot of us don't feel that we're represented not only in government, but in our families too.
Well, when you set that up, let me know. We'll bring you back on.
Yeah, man.
Nico, thanks so much for jumping on Saturday and I don't know, just talking this out with me.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite, man.
Take care, buddy. Bye.